Look what you did, you little jerk.
What's going on, jerk faces? Here we are for another main show recording. We got Andy, we got Dan back, and we have our first musical guest, Lanes Laire, coming on the podcast today. And I'm really excited for this guest. I've known him for, it seems like it's only been a little bit, but I've known him for quite a long time. And I've helped out filming one of his music videos. I've been to his concert, several of his concerts, and I'm really excited for him to talk about his musical inspirations and beginnings for the podcast. And as always, we're just here to have fun, and we want to welcome you, Mr. Lanes Laire. Say hello to the jerk faces out there.
How you doing? Glad to be here.
Awesome to the max.
So, I guess we'll get started. Well, actually, we haven't seen Dan in a while. Dan's been gone for...
maybe
I fell off the face of the earth. But cheers to all you jerk faces. I'm happy to be back.
The one problem with our main show is getting everyone together. We all have our schedules, going on, and we're working a lot. So it's hard for us to do this show all the time. So I'm really happy when we can have the majority of our group here. So yes. Dan, welcome back.
Yes. It's good to be back. Thank you, gents. Thank you.
And we'll get jumped right in. And Lanes, how did music become your passion? Where was the moment in your life where it's like music just like this is my passion. This is what I'm gonna pursue.
Yeah, it's going back quite a ways. One day I was going through. We have a closet that is in the hallway in the house that I grew up in, and there was a guitar in that closet, beat up. It needed strings, the whole thing. But it caught my attention. It was actually it was a guitar that his dad gave it to him, but my dad never played. So it's just something that was just sitting there.
Right.
So I was interested in it, and I had asked him if we can go to a shop or somewhere to get it fixed up. Mm-hmm. And so we did, and I just started teaching myself how to play.
Self-taught, that's pretty
cool. Self-taught, yeah. So the first song I taught myself how to play was Day Tripper by the Beatles.
Oh, nice.
Great song, great bass line. Really one of the best bass lines of all
You've
time.
already won Dan over.
I was going to say, you're a winner, that's all. Good night, folks, that's all. He's got Lanes Laire here has got a fan in Dan. Well, it's funny because a lot of people go, oh yeah, Smoke on the Water is the first song I ever learned how to play.
Yeah.
But no, it was Day Tripper, it was the Beatles. Because the Beatles were a huge influence for me.
That was what got. That was the next question. It's that was the band that really kind of got you interested in music.
Yeah, that was one of the bands.
Yeah. Do you have any other influences that kind of really inspired you as a musician?
I really didn't think about it. Well, it's funny because when I first started to learn how to play guitar, this is back in grammar school. I think it was in 8th grade at the time. And there was some guy who came to the school who taught guitar or gave guitar lessons. So I went ahead and started to learn. That was after a couple months after I started to teach myself how to play. Mm-hmm. So that's when I first got it started in formal learning. And then I went to the Southern California Conservatory of Music, and I studied, my formal training is traditional and contemporary jazz, which is kind of funny because I'm a rocker at heart. So I studied that for a while, and then I thought, man, who wants to do this jazz stuff, right? So I changed over to the rock guitar instructor, and I took that for a semester, and then it was like, man, you know what? I'm not learning anything. I just felt like there wasn't enough of anything, The jazz part of it was super challenging. Mm-hmm. So I went back, a kid in high school, playing jazz guitar. But it actually made a difference because there's things about what I learned, just with chords and harmony and structure and theory and all that stuff that you just apply. You apply to your music. It doesn't matter what music you play,
right.
Rock, whatever. There's certain things that you can use, that you utilize, and I still do to this day.
Right.
So I'm glad I made the change to go back,
Right.
and play that.
Well, it kind of, because I'm not a musician in any sense of the word. Music is. I'm always fascinated by people who can play instruments.
Kazoo, though.
Kazoo, yeah.
Well, I'm always. It's one of those skills
Andy on
where
the kazoo and 5, ladies and gentlemen.
when you look at writing music, and that's a whole new language that I just don't understand. So I'm always very fascinated by people who do understand it and who you're doing stuff like that. And it reminds me of my favorite artist, which is Frank Zappa. He was always involved with classical music, and that was what he was interested in. And it's well, I'm not gonna make money off of this, and so he transitioned into doing more rock.
Playing a bicycle.
Exactly. Yep. And it kind of reminds me of where it's but I think the things that he learned from classical music helped obviously his career, and,
totally.
and for you it was jazz that really kind of stretched you as a musician.
Yeah, I mean when I was first growing up, I wanted to be a fireman.
Why not?
Right?
Fireman, astronaut, that's the thing, exactly.
Astronaut, doctor.
Right,
Yeah.
totally.
Race car
Absolutely.
driver.
Yeah, the standard.
Race car driver,
The
right.
standard, you're right.
The standard American heroes.
And
Yeah.
but then when I started to, to play guitar, I'm like, rock star. Of
Yeah,
course.
Right.
Yeah.
The obvious.
Exactly.
The total obvious, because that's such a stable career. Right?
Yeah. No problems whatsoever being a rock star.
So it was funny because I started writing my own stuff. The first songs that I wrote were, now I call them my campfire tunes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just stupid songs with
Folksy kind of things.
there's songs like no,
sorry.
not quite. It
No,
was
go ahead.
more like the lady who fell out of a car.
I don't care how it goes, I like it already.
I want to hear that
was
song
my-
now.
Well, it's funny because that was my first serious song.
Uh-huh.
And I was serious about it because it was really about a car accident. I mean, it was but it ended up being this funny song, and it wasn't supposed to be funny, but it just ended up that way. But then that led to, Why Was I Born a Clone? Other great hits.
Awesome. I want to hear these songs.
Now you piqued my curiosity.
I see this
and I
Resurrection
need to
of
hear these
Black
songs.
album, but where are the Lanes Laire greatest hits? That's what I'm wondering.
Where's the back catalog?
On your next
Exactly.
concert, I want to hear these as kind of the B-side of the live album.
Well, I guess what I need to do instead of Resurrection of Black, I got to release the Lanes Laire campfire tunes.
There
Yes.
it is.
Oh my God!
Coming
Oh my
soon,
God,
ladies and
totally
gentlemen,
find that.
to a campfire
It's
near
funny
you.
that you were talking about how you wrote this kind of serious song, and it was more comedic. It kind of reminds me of that movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh yeah,
Where,
Larry,
he
totally.
tries to write a musical about Dracula, and it's he's trying to do it very seriously, but then it's no, this is a comedy musical, and so.
Well, I think the funniest thing was because I played that song and this was again I was in 8th grade when I wrote The Lady Who Fell Out of a Car. People knew this song,
Right.
and I went to a Catholic grammar school, and so at church we would play guitar or whatever. So when people were going up for communion and all that, I played The Lady Who Fell Out of a Car. The chords, obviously didn't sing,
Yeah.
but everybody knew what it was. So everybody's like,
They're getting their wafers and wine to a lady
They
who
might
fell
be
out
spitting out
of
the
the
Lord.
That's great.
it was, it was and I knew it too, the priest didn't know what was going on, but we all knew, the 7th graders, 8th graders, and all, we were all laughing, and
Awesome.
But, yeah, I'm glad I graduated from campfire tunes to stuff that was a little bit more. But you have to go through phases of music,
Right.
And that was just just one of the phases of writing and creating, and I've always done that. I haven't really my career hasn't been in a cover band. I did in high school. When I was a senior in high school, I was in a band called Blue Mist, and we played, a couple of the big dances, and that was a big deal. But that was probably the extent of being in a cover band.
Right.
I've always done my own thing, original music, or been in original bands. So, and it's funny because like, when you're at a party or you go over to your parents' house and they're like, oh, why don't you play something on guitar, and it's like, I don't know what to play because that's
You haven't heard of it, yeah.
right. I can play one of my songs, but they're gonna be like, okay, what is that, But yeah, so I've always done or written music, I just played my own stuff or just again played in bands, that played original music.
Well, that's because I know a lot of friends that have played music, and it's like oh, well, it's great, you can play all these other people's like stuff, but like as far as creating their own content, it's not, they don't have that, I don't know, talent or whatever to create their own music. But it's kind of interesting that your whole, even from a young age to now, like it's all been your own stuff. From like your simplicity, like camp songs to to Resurrection of Black to your new album that you're working on. I really like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It builds more of the lore of Lanes Laire in my eyes.
Okay.
Well, it's one of those things that you're not trying to be someone else. You've always been, I'm gonna be me, and this is gonna be my stuff, and I'm gonna be original. I'm not gonna just piggyback off of someone else's success.
It's what I do. I mean, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I do musically. Resurrection of Black is I guess I would describe it as like some people go, oh, that's kind of like 80s progressive rock kind of, or 70s. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like it's rock and roll with a progressive edge.
Right.
That's what this album is. The next album that I'm working on, it's going to kind of deviate a little bit, on a different road. But again, it's all part of growing as a musician and expanding and challenging yourself to do something different, or I mean, it's not going to be, it's me,
Right.
and I have a certain sound or a certain way I play, and you will hear that. There's some constant that's in the music throughout anything that I do, but you have to step out and do other things.
Right. Well, the one thing I remember when you were promoting the album, because you'd asked me like, oh, what do you like? How would you describe my album? And it's like, what artist do I kind of, if you it's like one of those Amazon recommendations. If you like this artist, you like this artist.
Right.
And I couldn't really, I felt weird because I couldn't really put like a finger on it. Like, oh yeah, you kind of sound like this person or that person. And I was like in my head, I was like, you sound like you. Like it was, I couldn't really. The one thing that I like that you kind of brought back as far as an album goes is your album tells a story. So it's you can listen to the tracks out of kind of on random, and the songs are good. But the album really comes alive when you listen to it in its entirety from start to from beginning to end. And that's a day and age of, we don't have that anymore, where it's kind of you'll have an album that has, I guess it's kind of dating myself calling them albums, but you'll have an album that comes out and it's like, you have like the one or two or three like top hit songs, and the rest of it is just
Right.
But here,
there's no ballads anymore. People don't do that.
Exactly.
When they do, it's rap, and then you're not quite sure what you're listening to. I'm sorry,
it's
but
like a rap song with someone that sings a hook.
or like they're playing over, singing over the lyrics of some like song, like hit song from the 70s or 80s. Like, wait.
Oh yeah, right.
That always.
Or
like,
I got together with my
Sam,
boyfriend.
yeah.
We had a good time.
Sam.
We broke up. This is my ballad. No, not really.
So I like that your album tells a story, and I know that was what you were really going with.
Yeah, I mean, Resurrection of Black, the songs that were picked for that album, there's definitely a flow, and it's like making a film. There's a pace and there's a flow to a film. Same thing with music. Same thing with with an album. And especially with an album, you got to look at the whole thing from beginning to end. And it is something where you start from the beginning, and you should be able to listen to it, from beginning to end, and there should be a flow to it,
Right.
And that was the goal with Resurrection of Black. The next album that I'm working on, it's called 1111, and I kind of tag it as just stories about life. So it's not, this Resurrection of Black, talks a lot about, just like the world that we live in, issues, corporate greed, political war, cliques and bullying and that kind of thing. So it hits on a lot of topics like that. 1111 is more about just stories of life, about relationships and just stories about some people and just things that I've encountered. So it'll be a little bit different, but I still want a flow to the album.
Right.
You got to be able to have a flow to it. Yes, each song stands out as its own individually.
Right.
But
That's a part of the whole.
But it's part of the whole. So if you can listen to it, from beginning to end, I think you get more out of it than just listening to a track here and there.
Right.
Well, and that's what I like. I always loved about kind of I'm classic rock guys. I like that the album's like where it tells that story from start to end, and it's like the whole album had to be good and tell that story succinctly. Whereas like the newer stuff, it's kind of the song's nice, the song's nice, and it's like, but I wouldn't listen to the whole album.
Right. I mean, it depends. It's I think there's some artists out there. I mean, everybody does their thing. And everybody has their purpose, and again, in the music business, nowadays I think it's all about, here's somebody, here's the pretty boy or the pretty girl, and let's give them their 18 months of fame, and then we'll just throw them off to the wayside and grab the next one. It's just about churning, hits. Yeah. And the days of artists and a catalog, don't really exist anymore.
Right.
I mean, obviously there are some that do, but it's really a lost art, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and in the '90s, it seemed like there was it's not exclusively to the '90s, but that was just when I was more coherent and aware of the world. But there seemed like a really high turnover rate for like pop stars.
Yeah.
And so it's just like every year there's like kind of like cars, like the latest model or
And that's all it is. It's like, and it's very short-sighted, and that I think is part of the downfall of the music industry, is that everything is just super short-sighted. They want to make a quick buck and then move on, which is really stupid, because then if you have a band that has an album after album after album, and even when they break up, the record company is still making money off of that band, like Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or whatever, Rush or whatever, whatever the band is, that they have a catalog.
Right.
And that record company is going to be making money off of that catalog well after that band is gone.
Right.
But which is, I think, kind of stupid in the sense that they haven't preserved that, because that's what's going to continue to make them money. The Beatles make a ton of money.
They still do.
And that band broke up in 1970.
Only 1/4 of them are still around.
Well, I remember.
No, wait a second. Ringo's still alive as McCartney.
Ringo and Paul.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm the Asian that doesn't do math.
Well, I mean, we
so
had,
1/4.
Well, we had to.
2 out of 4. 1/4.
Well, we were out at eating one night, and we had that discussion about the Beatles, where it was pretty amazing that as much as they were touring, as much they were putting out hit after hit after hit after hit, and it was say what you will about the Beatles. Some say they're overrated. Some are just like
heresy.
Yeah, or super Beatles fanatics like our like Dan here.
But look, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
27 number one singles the Beatles had,
Well,
and that was just in the 8 or so years that they were together.
I mean, the thing is, back then, in the 60s, like Beatles, for example, here's a band that had to put out, 3 albums or something a year, so when they were touring, they were sitting in their hotel, they were writing songs, the amount of time that they had to create what they created, was if you really think about it, I mean, it's amazing because they can sit down and write. Oh wait, we need a title track for this movie we're making.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, let's overnight. They write Hard Day's Night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
it's like so the stuff.
One night story. Yeah.
So the stuff that they were writing, were big hits, and that's just a testament to their skills. The skills of what they were able to produce in such a short amount of time. To come up with like hit after hit after hit.
Right.
And to be able to do that, is amazing. And nowadays you don't have that, or you just have songwriters who, take like country music, the Nashville Machine is what we always called it. It's like, okay, let's take a catchphrase and make some BS song out of it, give it to some pretty boy dude who, wears a cowboy hat or girl, whatever. And then they have their big hit, and then that's a great hit. But again,
Right.
same thing. Okay, they're done. Let's find the next person. Okay, they're done. Let's find the next person.
Yeah, there's no more like Hank Williams Sr. or any like those guys that
Yeah.
are.
Again, those days
Or
are
hell, I mean, both Guthries. Woody Guthrie obviously was, country and folk legend. Arlo Guthrie transferred to, the rock scene, to folk rock. You talk about a flowing album and Arlo Guthrie, writing Alice's Restaurant, the entire thing.
That's a great song.
I mean, obviously the one song, Alice's Restaurant, is 22 some odd minutes and takes up the entire B-side of the LP. But the A-side, that you might not know, is a great flowing actual, story of a folk rock album. Yeah. Go ahead.
But I mean,
And
that's-
you don't see that anymore, no.
But bottom line is for any artist, like a true artist, you gotta be true to yourself. I mean, this is who I am. This is what I do. And you have to be happy with what you do.
Right.
I mean, when I started out, it was, I want to be a rock star. I want to be this. I want to be that. And it was all about the fame and fortune, et cetera, et cetera. But the older you get and the wiser you get, and it's like, okay, why am I doing this? I'm doing it for the passion and love of creating music, of creating something that I'm proud of. And you know what? If people like it, that's awesome. You're not going to please everybody, and that's just that's the way it is.
Right.
That's why there's a million different genres of music, right?
Right.
But number one, you have to do it for yourself, and you have to be happy. And it has to be, in a sense, self-fulfilling as a creative artist, and that's the core of it. You have to love doing what you do.
Right.
Bottom line.
Okay, so you have we talked a little bit about your how you got your start in music, like your where your passion got started with.
Yeah.
How did Lanes Laire get started? Because obviously you're talking about being in like other bands and stuff like that. Where was the moment where like I'm gonna venture out on my own and like start doing this?
Well, even in high school, I was in a band. I guess I should tell this story. And I think this is the first time I've actually told this story.
why we're here.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
honored.
I'm looking for it.
This is gonna be the first time.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Share with the people.
All right. When I must have been ninth grade. Ninth grade, I was in a band. Ninth grade, I was in a band called Nirvana.
Oh yeah.
All right.
This is a great story. I've heard this one. It's good.
Well, actually, when we first started out, we were called FX. Oh no, first it was in Nirvana. Then we changed to FX. Then we were back to Nirvana. And then this was in around ninth grade or so. And then after that, 12th grade, because the band we just kind of separated.
Right.
We got back together. We're like, okay, well, let's really do this. So we were Nirvana. There was Nirvana in LA. We were the LA band.
You're right.
Okay.
The Seattle band didn't exist when we were
Right.
doing our thing. So I played in that band for quite a while, and it's funny because if you read the liner notes in Resurrection of Black, it talks about these songs being older than they're not new songs.
Right.
These are songs that I played back in Nirvana days.
Yeah.
You know, and and back then it's like, I didn't want to write with anybody, I wrote my own stuff and that was it.
Right.
And then I'd come to band practice, like, oh, I got a song, I want to introduce a song into the band. And my stuff was kind of moody and whatever. And which is another funny thing because, you know, I'm trying to think of the right word to describe this. Naive, I think, would be the best would be the best word because, like, I wasn't that familiar with Pink Floyd really and the music, and my music is kind of that moody, you know, quasi progressive, whatever type, very Pink Floyd-ish style.
Dark Side, type of thing.
So when I started it, when someone said, "Hey man, you listen to this? You know, have you listened to Pink Floyd?" And so I was like, "Oh," and so I listened. I'm like, "Wow, man, those guys write like me."
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Pink Floyd has Lanes Laire to thank for all their success.
Yeah, no. So like I said, naive is the word. You know, I didn't. You know, what did I know? But then when I really, looked at, started to really listen to Floyd and what they were doing, I was like, wow, these guys are great. Anyway, so that was my style. The other guys in Nirvana, their stuff was more, straight ahead rock and roll type stuff. So I was a little bit of the odd man out in the band, but they liked it because it gave depth and variety and character to the band. But after a while, it finally got to a point to where I just didn't feel comfortable with how my music was being played. So then I decided that I was going to leave the band, and it was a big deal back then.
Right.
When I left the band.
Breaking up the band, man.
It was funny. I went to
you yoke yourself.
I went to a Christmas party with one of the brothers of, because there were two brothers who were in the band. The singer and the drummer were brothers, and their cousin was a bass player. And so his younger brother, we were talking about back in Nirvana days, and he said, and I didn't know this. He goes, man, when you left the band, he goes, I cried.
Wow.
I was like,
really?
It's like, dude, don't tell me this, man. You're really making me feel guilty. I mean, this was years ago,
Right.
But that was quite funny. But anyway, the band carried on, and I decided to, I was going to just do my own thing. I created, my own other band at the time. This is before I was just doing Lanes Laire solo stuff. But I guess to wrap up the Nirvana story, the Seattle band had started.
When did their lawyers come calling? That's the real question.
That's exactly what happened.
Eventually it happened.
What had happened was, my old band, owned the international trademark to the name.
Oh, no way.
Owned
Wow.
Nirvana. That was our name. We owned it.
Interesting.
We owned the trademark.
Wow.
Okay, so
Hey.
KROQ in LA started to play Nirvana. This is before Nevermind hit super big.
Yeah.
So the oldest brother of the singer and the drummer is a lawyer. So he sends cease and desist letters
to Nirvana in Seattle.
No. He sends letters to all the radio stations. And says you're in violation of trademark law, and we will sue you if you continue to play this band. So Geffen Records wasn't too happy about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So they countersued my old band, for $2 million. And they're like, F you. No. So we went to court.
Oh.
I was out of the band by that time.
Okay.
But they go to court, and basically the judge throws out Geffen's case and says, no, you can't sue them. They legally own the name. But, you got Geffen lawyers who know
Yeah.
all the
little-
loopholes, which there were loopholes in trademark law, and basically the judge was like, well, it comes down to whoever makes it first, is what it really comes down
Oh,
to.
because they're still
Interesting.
they're still starting out.
They were still starting out.
Okay.
And then by that time, like my band had opened for Joe Walsh, they had, opened for Robin Trower, they had their stuff. They were played on KLOS in LA. So it wasn't like they were just nobody.
Right.
Now, if I was still in the band, I would have gone out and I would have gigged everywhere just to piss Geffen off. and then I would have said, "Oh, you want the name? $1 million." But they didn't do that. However, the judge again, they awarded my band $50,000 that Geffen had to pay them for violating trademark law. But obviously, we all know the end result.
Right.
You got a major record company, backing a band. There's just no way that they can compete.
Right.
Yeah,
against
the money talks and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So it's funny. I have also. I know you can't see it on here, but
we can. I know the article you're
Yeah,
going to show.
yeah.
We can post it on
Yeah.
on here. So.
yeah, there's an article,
Like,
and
the
then
link in the description.
Yep.
that I saved. Let me see if I can find. Here we go. It was called. This was in the local paper. Court issues Nirvana to all. And
That's a
there's
great
a
headline.
whole
That's
there's a whole
awesome.
article about the lawsuit
Uh-huh.
in here, which I'll let you. I'll send
Yeah. We'll get it.
Send the
Put it
copies
up.
of it. So yeah, that was pretty funny. So yes, I was in Nirvana.
Lanes Laire, the original member.
The original
Nirvana.
member.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
But it's all part of music history,
Yeah.
music lore. A lot of people don't know this story.
Right.
Yeah,
I like when you told me that. I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Really?
yeah, totally. I mean,
I never knew there was another Nirvana out there.
It was It was all
And the fact that like you guys at one point held the trademark to that name.
of the name, the international trademark to the name. Yeah.
Wow.
That's-
It's international, not even just like in the United
Not
States.
yes,
It's the
the
international.
international trademark.
In perpetuity.
In
It's-
perpetuity.
So
It's funny because I'll because I'm a photographer, and so I'm always like reading over what is it, like license agreements or whatever for my work
Sure.
and stuff, and it's like most recently this ad agency came at me, and it really it's really it's one of those industries that you have to be like really smart, and like you have to really protect yourself. And they wanted to use one of my photos for like one of their clients, like, and it was a gym, and and then they sent me over the licensing agreement, and then they the warning bells always go off because they said like, oh, the ad should run from like this day to this day,
yeah.
but in the agreement they said they always have the in perpetuity part. And it doesn't, like, for me it doesn't matter like how it doesn't matter how small like the region that they're going to reach or whatever, because like it was also going to be on the internet, so like nothing on the internet goes away.
Right.
So like that word in perpetuity always like is like a source of like conflict for me. And then I simply asked like, oh, can we change the perpetuity to duration
Yeah.
of
Of a
campaign.
certain time.
And then as soon as I did that, like I stopped getting like emails and phone calls from them.
Yep, they gave up.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
because he's like, oh shit, he's smart.
Well, you have to protect your.
Yeah. I mean, cause I don't mind like licensing my stuff and like getting paid, and then like coming back to me, it's like, oh, we want to reuse it again. So all right, well, let's talk. Let's hash out some new agreement, and I'm totally open to do that. But they just they think they come at you, it's like, oh, this big opportunity, and it's like oh no, it's like, yeah, it's
You
my
should
chance.
feel lucky.
Yeah,
to-
it's like it's like, oh, you should feel lucky that we're even talking to you right now. And just
Well,
like
see, that's the thing. The biggest struggle with any artist, whether you're a photographer or a musician or a painter or whatever, anything that's creative and that's of the arts, is people don't take you seriously. I play guitar. Oh, you play. No, I've spent
The nature of
thousands
that
and thousands
word,
and thousands of dollars, investing in my career to be able to do what I do and be good at what I do. So you can call it playing, but no, you're going to pay me for my work.
Right.
This is my work. This is what I do.
It's your livelihood, yeah.
And this is your and this
It's
is
your
and this
life's
is your
work, yeah.
livelihood. One of the bands that another band that I was in was like an Americana folk rock kind of band called the Horse Soldiers, and we decided at one point, because we do whatever gigs here and there and whatever But we decided, screw that. If we're going to book any more gigs, we're going to get paid for them. Whether they're bar gigs or whatever, we're going to get paid. And we just decided that was it. So like the fear, of course, is like, oh my God, I'm never going to work. We're never going to be able to, because half of the material we did was original, and then we did, covers, but we kind of made our own arrangements of music to, so it all sounded coherent,
right.
So even when people listen to it, it's, it's an original tune and maybe a cover tune, but it blended so well that you wouldn't know, But we decided, okay, that's it. We're gonna get paid for our work, and we did, and we worked. So, my advice is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to value your assets. Don't be afraid to value your worth. If you do something that's great and that's creative, you should get paid for it. Bottom line. Here's your advice.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah, I'm always like, earlier in my career, I took like whatever opportunity I could, but then, I started, charging, and it's, I don't know, technology has made like things a little bit more complicated, because, now there's not the cost of, developing film and sending out your stuff to get done by a lab. Everything is like computer and digital, and, you can take like 1,000 pictures in one session, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I think, with kind of technology, like the work is, at least in photography, it's been diminished. Because I sometimes from time to time to find like quick jobs, I'll scan Craigslist, and there's all these people, like whether actors that need headshots or like these, and I hate that they do this, but they brandish, like these companies that brandish the term startup to somehow like make it okay for them to ask someone to work for free. It's like, well, like, how you, it's like, especially like clothing companies, like, we need someone to take pictures of our samples on a model and da-da-da-da. It's like, well, how'd you pay for those samples? It's like, oh, we have investors. It's like, oh, well, tell them to invest a little bit more into your into your advertising budget, and I'd be happy to help work with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like now, but there was a point, similar to you, like there was a certain point in my career where I was like, no more working for free.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
You've spent too much time and money investing in your art, and this is, again, like you said, it's your livelihood. This is what I do. This is what I do. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think the Joker said it best in Dark Knight. It's like, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But someone would never guess that you were in Nirvana.
Right now, I can say I knew someone in Nirvana.
I
can legitimately say that.
Right. It's legit. It's totally
he is at the
legit.
table talking to you, fine folks, right now.
Yeah, what can I say?
Exactly.
Yeah. I do have to attest to my Americana phase of my career.
I would love to hear about it.
Oh, yes.
Do tell.
That because of that band, that is what really honed in my 12-string guitar playing. As a matter of fact, what's really funny is if I play acoustic guitar, it's 12-string. Like the first thing I will,
Interesting.
the first thing I will reach for will be a 12-string, because to me, that feels more natural to me now.
Oh, really?
Than, obviously electric guitars, whatever.
Different animal.
Yeah, but when it comes to acoustic guitar, I feel more comfortable playing a 12-string than just a standard 6-string guitar. And a lot of it would have to attest to being in that band, which it was a cool thing, because in that particular band I had the opportunity to do the musical arrangements and a lot of creativeness, whether it was my song or not my song, or a collaboration, or just even cover tunes. I got to be able to put my spin on it. And my approach to the 12-string was, hey man, if you can play it on the 6-string, you should be able to play it on the 12. And obviously, when it comes to bending notes or whatever, you can't do it.
Right.
So you make adjustments. You figure out a way to get the sounds you need to get, And it's like, I don't care if there's, if I'm playing a 12 string, I'm going to solo on this thing. I'm going to play it as if it was a regular 6-string guitar. Electric, acoustic, doesn't matter. And that was my approach to playing that instrument. I'm glad I was in that band, because if it wasn't for that band, I never would have been able to develop the skills
that you needed.
to play 12 string.
So, I mean, have you, from all of, the bands that you've played in and all through your experience, you've taken something away from all those experiences, and which have kind of developed who you are today as a musician?
Absolutely. I was just thinking, when I play, especially when I play acoustic, when I play the 12 string, and if I'm doing, some kind of intricate picking, I guess I have this certain picking style, and it wasn't something that was planned. It wasn't something like, I'm going to pick this certain way. It was because when I was learning how to play guitar, and you learn your up and down picking, and you go through your scales, I didn't learn it right. So I have a glitch. I have a glitch.
Which works for you, because I know what he's talking about too. I've seen him in concert.
It's hard to describe, this way.
We'll put up a picture of you doing that.
Matter of fact,
coming.
if you look up, you can look up on YouTube, "Dying to Be Found," which is a song that's going to be on the 11/11 album, and there's a video of me playing that song, just a solo acoustic video.
Yeah.
But that song utilizes that picking technique, which is it's like down, down, every other. It's like, and it was because I totally screwed up learning how to pick properly. But it's funny because now it's becomes that's me. That's part of my sound, and just how I pick when it comes to intricate picking.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, because when you do that, you feel. I felt it was something. It was like, man, he's really getting into the music. He's intense.
It's a mistake.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
Cutting that part out.
You can't admit that. You have to that's all purpose.
It's all intentional.
Well, actually,
Always all.
I'm glad. It's one of those, what they call a happy mistake.
Yeah.
That's what my parents call me.
Oh,
That's what my parents said.
Yeah. My parents didn't, but that's a whole other story. We'll get to that.
Oh, your parents wanted you.
That's what they want me to believe.
Yeah.
No, but I'm glad. I'm glad that this quirk ended up being something to my benefit.
Right, and it kind of highlights you as a.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it highlights you as an artist. This is something that's you can tell when you're playing, you're getting into it. It's like that really comes out. So, well, let's talk about Resurrection of Black.
Sure.
I was grunt number 1 and helping out with one of the music videos that was
the
done
all
for
important grunt number 1.
We did shoot a music video. Our single was "Pleasures of War."
Oh God, it's a great song. And we might have to play it for the podcast too.
Sure.
We'll put it in somewhere just so people get a little bit of a taste of it. If that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine. We shot a music video. I hired a music director, Jax Pintone, really cool dude. A lot of energy, a lot of this.
A lot of energy. The guy has a lot of energy.
But really cool guy to work with, and him and his cinematographer were great. And and Robert helped out on shooting.
A lot more than I thought I was going to. Well, and for the music video, if you haven't seen it, we'll play a few seconds of it on the podcast. We dug a foxhole in your backyard.
We did do that.
That was a very hot day.
In the summertime, of course.
Of course.
With it was super dry, so it made it even we had to keep wetting the ground just to get the foxhole dug. And then the day that we filmed that section of the music video, God, it was 100 degrees that day. And it was it had to have been about 50 or 60% humidity. So we're sweating our ass off. I was in between takes. I'm blow drying shirts to make sure, to keep the continuity.
So it's pretty funny. It's like, okay, we do a couple shots, right, and then
Sweating through your
and
wardrobe.
it's like, shirt off, here, blow dryer, next shirt on, and then there was just like this rotation of shirts, It was pretty
Well, then
funny.
I ended up getting roped into like having to help out with the lighting and stuff. And I remember I was placed in between. We had a projection screen that was going up against the wall. I'm holding up it was either the microphone or the light. I can't remember what I was holding up. And I'm getting the exhaust, heat from that projector, pretty much right on my face. I was like,
It was lighting. I think.
yeah. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so hot. This is it was hot, but it was a lot of
That's
fun.
all fun, part of the process.
Yeah.
Man,
But
I hate the
that ended up being a 12 or 14 hour day. It was a long day.
No, they usually are.
Yeah, but it was so much fun, and it was the. But then going up and seeing the music video after it was complete,
Once it's complete,
yeah, it's it was all worth it. It was really, it came together great. And I was like, hey, I worked on that.
Yeah, it's the song "Pleasures of War" obviously is like a description of, and lyrically it describes details of the horrors of war. But I didn't want to do a music video that was regurgitating what the lyrics were saying.
Right.
So we went a different route. We showed. We kind of had a storyline within the video of more of the after effects of war, like what happens to our veterans, what happens to the people that we're supposed to take care of, who fight for our country, So we had shot. We had done a lot of footage in downtown LA.
Oh, the Skid Row.
Tent City, Skid Row, the whole thing, and the, those shots are real,
Right.
and the people that you see in that music video are real. In the beginning of the song, before the lyrics, before the words even start, there's shots and there's people there. There's one guy in a doorway who's like, I don't know if he's tweaking out on drugs or if he's just so messed up, but it's like, that's real. This is what's really happening, in this city. And we wanted to capture that and just make that as the storyline for the video instead of, let's make a whole war thing,
Right.
So why regurgitate the same thing?
And I felt that was actually a really powerful way to go because, a lot of times those veterans just kind of get tossed on the wayside. We don't really think about that at all. And me being in the Navy, I always kind of cringe at calling myself a veteran because I didn't end up having to go over to Afghanistan or any of those places like some of my friends did.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of struggles that my friends went through that it's there was no one really there to help them deal with it, and and a lot of Daryl, our good friend Daryl, who's been on the podcast, he's a Vietnam veteran. No one was there to he almost felt ashamed to come back home at that time because people were spitting on veterans, and a lot of those guys just got tossed aside. No one gave a crap about them.
Yeah. And
it's kind of, we don't really, we're all supporting the troops when they're going off to war, but when they come home, where's that support? And
and that was the story that we wanted to try to get across. And we had a couple of actors for the storyline that we had interspersed throughout the video.
Right.
And it's funny, the girl who we had as the homeless person, who was a veteran. It's funny because she is a comedian by trade, yet she portrayed this very serious role and did a great job.
oh yeah, I would have never thought she was a comedian.
Oh no, she's awesome. Her name's Julia Pels, and she performs a lot in Los Angeles. A lot of comedy, because that's her thing. But she did a great job in this music video. So I'm really pleased with her and the gentleman who played the cop. Was helping her
Right.
in the music video. So so that was the story that we wanted to to share in that particular film.
Yeah, I was saying is like, what was the whole kind of like message that you wanted to get across with the Resurrection of Black? What was kind of the inspiration that finally got you to like, this is what I want to put together?
Well, what's interesting about how this album came about was my original intention.
We have another bag if you want more.
Oh yeah, go for it, man. I mean,
Says,
before we
"Nope,
started
this is
filming,
my
I like
bag."
ate half of it, so the idea of, well, when we made Resurrection of Black, when I started to make this, the original intention was 11/11, the album that I'm working on now.
Right.
That was the first album that was supposed to come out, not Resurrection of Black.
Is that
Right.
a reference to Veterans Day? Is that the 11/11 or is
No.
that a coincidence?
Oh,
Okay,
no.
I thought that's where you were
that's something
headed.
completely
Oh, okay.
different. 11/11 is like,
It's a special meaning behind,
yeah,
Okay.
behind
it's
that.
that's a whole other deal. But that was the album that I was going to work on. But then I thought, well, like I knew I wanted to do Resurrection of Black, so I got together my bass player and drummer, and we're great musicians, by the way. I don't know if you know them or not, but you should. They're brothers, Greg Bissonette on drums and his brother Matt Bissonette on bass. Greg Bissonette currently is the drummer for Ringo Starr's All-Star Band.
Oh, nice.
And Matt Bissonette is Elton John's bass player.
Oh,
And these guys have played, with all a bunch of people, top-notch musicians, and just really cool guys to work with. I was going somewhere with this.
No, well, you
The
started with
inspiration
11/11, but like,
Right. So we got together. I wanted to at least record the bass and drums, because then I figured I'll just work on 11/11 whenever I have a chance, on Resurrection of Black when I have a chance to work on it. But after we recorded this, like I knew, like it was like being laser focused. I knew exactly what I wanted for each song. Everything just fell into place. So I had to make the decision, am I going to continue to try to work on 11/11, or do I put that back on the shelf and just focus on Resurrection of Black? So obviously, this one.
right.
So, which is great, it's fine. I'm glad I was able to do this, because again, these were older songs that I've done in other bands, and it was nice to actually take this music and finally have it done in the way that I've always wanted to have it recorded and performed. So that was a good thing. So now we're back on the 11/11 track. And it's really funny because I'm already ahead of working on the next album after.
11/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
You already have plans for the next
I
one.
already have plans, and what's really funny, it's like I'm almost kind of going through the same dilemma of, do I work on the new album and put 11/11?
Is 11/11 just always going to be on
Yeah,
the shelf?
you keep pushing it back.
back,
Pushing
yeah,
it
right.
Is
back.
it going to go back on the shelf again? But I'm like, no, you can't. You can't do that. You gotta get this one out. And I do want to finish this one out. Because the other one is still in very, very early stages.
Right,
But I
right.
know what I want to do. I even have I have the title for it already, and even have an album cover for it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Well, you're halfway there then.
All I have to do is
The rest is gravy.
I just have to have music to actually put on the album.
Minor details.
Minor details.
Little detail, yeah. But I was thinking about, in regards to Resurrection of Black, maybe doing one more music video.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, the last song of this album is called Justifiable Condemnation. And
Great song.
the song basically deals with cliques. High school cliques. It can even be, it doesn't have to always be, in school. You have the same thing in the corporate world. You have the same
like
thing.
in the office or.
Absolutely, same thing. So, and then to tie into that, not that it was, and I never really thought about it as being about bullying, but when you think about it, it's like, yeah, actually, it really does fall into that category. So I think I want to make a music video that brings that into the forefront, because that's what the song talks about. You know, when I was in high school, you know, I didn't really care for high school for me personally, because it was all about cliques. It was all about, you know, the cheerleaders and the football team and whatever else, you know, the cool kids, right? And it seemed to be very prominent in my class. It was a big deal. The clique thing was a big deal. You know, and I think nowadays you know, it seems to even be worse. You know, the bullying that happens nowadays is
Well, I think
bad.
one of the things is now, you know, with internet and things like that, there's more
Anonymous bullying.
Yeah, it's the
more
anonymity
opportunity.
that comes with, you know, just leaving a comment on YouTube or on someone's Facebook page, just like.
No consequences for
Yeah,
it.
there's no consequences, as
Yeah.
opposed to, you know, back in the day, we actually had to go up to someone and say, "You're a piece of shit. I
Yeah.
hope you die."
Yeah.
You know, and then the
Just a
person
little more
knows who you
personal.
are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It
You
couldn't
know, and
lie.
then there's like then there could be some consequences where they're like, you know, they go and like, you know, tell the principal or their parents or whatever, and then
Yeah.
that kind of happens. But then now it's just like there's no accountability to like what you say, you know. And I mean, you know, there's been like recently there was, you know, like that porn star that killed herself after she basically, you know, said she didn't want. Have you guys heard?
No, I
No,
think I heard about
I haven't
this.
heard about
Oh.
this.
Well, yeah, there's this porn star who, I guess she backed out of doing a scene with another porn actor who I guess also did gay porn, and I guess you know, there's like the risk of, you know, getting AIDS or whatever is a little bit higher for, you know, the male porn actors. So, you know, she just said, oh, you know, and then I guess they found someone else to take the scene, and she's like, oh, you know, I hope whoever they got to fill in for my scene, you know, is aware that the actor that she's going to be working with, you know, does gay porn. And everyone like lost their minds
Interesting.
and was like, thought that it was like, you know, she was bashing like gay people, you know, when it was, you know, that wasn't the thing, unless, you know, if you were, you know, if you have a, you know, you could tell that that's not what she meant, like, you know, if you have a IQ higher than, you know, room temperature, but you know, like, yeah, everyone just like ripped into her, was like, oh, how dare you, and like even like other like, you know, porn actors like came out against her and say, oh, how dare you, you know, say disparaging things against, you know, people within our community. And blah, blah, blah.
The boy who
And-
cried homophobe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it was like this dog pile, and then finally, like, I guess like it was just too much for her, and she killed herself.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I mean, in a way, it's like, you know, those people, I guess like the porn actors who are in like the community, you know, they have there's a little bit more responsibility on them, but then, you know, you have like those Twitter eggs, you know, who don't use their real names, or don't, you know,
Right.
who don't have even a profile picture, and they just say all these like horrible and reprehensible things.
Man, Sissy Girl 17 is a real jerk.
Yeah, exactly. 60 Girl 17, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and that's the point. I mean, the point is to bring that into the forefront, and that's something that I want to do. You know, and I think it's super important for people to have some kind of support group or something. You know,
Yeah.
you gotta have something. You know, a lot of people, and artists especially, I think, you know, deal with. Maybe it's not. I shouldn't just say artists, just people in general.
Well, I mean, a little
Deal with bullying. Deal with depression. Deal with, you know, things that you know, it's coming more to the forefront now, but a lot of people don't take it seriously, or, you know, are just kind of like whatever about it, or like, oh, especially with, you know, with kids in high school or in college or whatever. You know, it's a serious thing, and it's something that really needs to be brought into the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel you, but I think be a balance as well, because I think nowadays we're so quick to just be like, you know, constantly trying to, try to shield, you know, children from, you know, disparaging remarks or things like that. But and I think we should also equip young people to handle that kind of thing. I mean, yes, I mean, I'm not talking about like the extremes and like the dogpiling or anything like that, but you know, just a little toughening, I think, goes a long way, because then they'll be able to have like the discernment to like, It's like, is this thing that this anonymous person say worth me going to spiraling into depression or not? I think it goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely you do have to separate the people who are overly protective. And I've seen this where whether it's, I don't know, maybe it's parenting or whatever it is that, oh, everybody gets a ribbon, everybody wins, everybody this, and it's like that is not preparing you for the world.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Which I understand that. On the other side, there are people who do suffer from mental demons, who do suffer from, and it's not like, oh, they're ugly or they're whatever. I mean, there's people who are, good looking or famous or whatever, and they kill themselves or commit suicide because of depression, because it's been something, it's a
There's something that gets in them early on, and it's almost like they can't get out of their own way.
It doesn't, and that's and then that's.
I totally grant that.
Yeah. So that's the the other side of it too. So I'm all for, don't coddle people. For example, there was somebody that I knew who worked at a corporation who there was this intern who was working there, and her time was up. She wasn't all that great as an intern, but her time was up, and obviously there was a position open for in that department, and she just automatically assumed
that she was going to get
it because she felt entitled,
Right.
because she was one of those people who was coddled into, oh, everybody gives you everything.
Right,
everybody
you're
this,
great, you're awesome,
know.
you're perfect.
And so they say, she was like, oh well, I want that job. Oh great, well then go through the proper
Yeah, you can
channels,
apply,
go to HR, apply for the job. And she's like, what do you mean? You should just give it to me. She's telling the corporate. She's telling her boss at a
good luck with
corporate,
that.
big corporation. She literally, you should just give it to me. And they're like, no. And she literally pitched a fit and threw a tantrum.
So, well, you're definitely not getting
it's
it
like,
now.
Yeah, right.
And
it's a good thing.
and that's again, that's not right either. You have to, you gotta be smart. The world is not the greatest place, but you can make it great if you love yourself, if you accept yourself for who you are. It doesn't matter whether you think you're pretty or ugly or fat or skinny or whatever, who cares? If you love yourself for who you are, then people are going to love you for who you are.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Wise words.
Well, and to go along with the the bullying front, and we actually had we did a show with Andy, myself, and James, and I don't know if you ever watched that show 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. Did you ever watch that?
I haven't, but I know of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you watch that, Dan?
And I find
Yeah.
yeah.
And
I hate watched it.
Yeah.
Just a reminder,
Yeah.
I hate watched it.
Binge watched it.
There are
Hate watched
problems with it, yes, but kind of the idea of to go to kind of bring it back to Resurrection of Black in that song. And for me growing up, bullying was not quite what, maybe not necessarily as serious as how it's become. As far as like, oh, you're gay, you're fat, it's like it was that kind of stuff. It's like you kind of like making fun of when because Dan and I grew up together. We grew up very close, and so we know the bullying wasn't like the, I hope you die and I want to rip off your mother's face and wear it.
It's
something
a
like
whole
that.
nother level now.
Yeah,
not just the
That's
anonymity
serial
of it.
killers.
Yeah.
It's like now kids don't know the line because they don't say it to the person to their face.
Right.
They don't know that line. It's like and usually you
They
get.
don't know how powerful the line
Yeah.
is when you're writing it down, whether that means
Yeah.
typing it or whatever.
Well, and that's the other thing too is for us when we will think of like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever of these sites, is like we can take it or leave it. I mean,
Right.
we use it, but we whatever.
These
And
days,
it's like,
I'll check
who
it
is that
about once
person? I
a
don't know
week,
that
yeah,
person.
right, yeah.
Like
Right.
it's different when it's like coming at you like hard and fast in your face. But for this new generation of people, this is
This
very,
is all
very,
they
very
know.
serious.
This is important. Yeah.
And it's like they didn't like my tweet.
These are not just part of their lives. These are their emotional lives.
The constant affirmation of Instagram
Right.
or retweeting something or liking a tweet or liking a status or a picture.
And we've had this conversation too, where you've met a group of people where you would talk to them online, and then you met them in person. It's like they almost couldn't talk to you. Like it was kind of, they were so invested in that like electronic life. Almost.
It's maybe it's the generation of today, but people are very into this, and they can communicate via text message
very eloquently,
or on Facebook or whatever. And
sit across from
exactly. So, there was that one instance where someone had mentioned, I'll meet you, over at such and such, and so the person actually shows up, sits down right next to me, doesn't say a word, orders a drink, whatever, and then I'm thinking, is this the guy? Because we hadn't met. This was the first time we were just a friend, like a Facebook friend. And didn't say a word. Just sat down and didn't say a word. And so then I'm like, are you? And then I ask, and he's like, oh yeah, that's me. What? Oh my God. So then, it's like pulling teeth trying to have a conversation, but it's like, okay, no, I get it. All right, I get it. This is your life.
Yeah. You need to bring up, hey, that cat video I saw the other day was awesome. That'll get them going.
I know, right?
But in a sense, it was kind of sad that this is the means of communication. Face to face is awkward and uncomfortable, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
But you know what? After talking to this guy for a while, nice guy. He goes to college, he's studying, and really cool dude. And when you get to talking and stuff, it's like, dude, this is where it's at. Face-to-face communication, contact with a human being is worth 1,000 times more than this. So don't get pulled in. Another word of advice, right? Don't get suckered in and just making this your life. Make human contact and communication more of a thing.
Right, because the internet and social media and all that stuff. It's
great.
It's great. It's great. But it's supplementary.
Right. It's part of
it should
life.
Be
but it should not be
to real
your
life.
Right.
Not this becoming real life, but then a supplement to real life.
Yeah, totally.
So it's kind of, like you said, it's sad that things like that can really, in a sense, ruin someone's life. And where it's like, if you kind of took that step back, it's like, it's I always, it's funny, we see a lot of the uproar on Twitter, for, certain things, and it's like, you know what, in 2 weeks, no one's gonna give
care.
Yeah, it's like just...
because that's how fast, things go now. It's like, you put something out, it's people kind of commented or whatever for a couple of days, and then it's like, okay, what's it's the new thing, the new.
Yeah.
The new.
As the human attention span is constantly shrinking with all this up-to-date,
constant,
new news not just every day, but every minute of every day, people forget about it. It's not 15 minutes of fame anymore. It's more like 15 hours or 15 seconds. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite comedians, a guy by the name of Alonzo Bowden, and he has a great bit about the, who's paying attention. And it was talking about all these disasters that everyone's outraged over. We're all gonna die, and it's like, and then he's like, it's hey, yeah, you know what? It's a big deal. It's like, but then it's like everyone's gonna die. Now I call bullshit, and and he goes through. It's like he was talking about the BP oil spill. It's like, well, I'm too worried about my Prius that's that with the throttle is stuck and they're Priuses, they're gonna sink into your kid's bedroom and kill you. Or it's like,
that's what's gonna bring the world
down. I can't worry about Priuses because I'm still too worrying about the swine flu. It's like it's all these
it'll call the human population
all
by
these
half.
disasters that are gonna ruin humanity forever and kill us all. And it's like you look back and it's like it's all bullshit. It's and it all goes away eventually. Yeah. So not to make light of bullying, because the track is very powerful, the message is powerful, and we've all, you, me, and James talked about this. It's like, if you're really struggling with something, you're very seriously struggling with something. I mean, there's so many networks out there for you to reach out to.
And we don't mean social networks. Other networks,
no.
non-social media.
Actual, people that are
people, real people.
That volunteer their time, that really care and like want to make sure that you get the help that you need, like whether it's like you just need to talk something out and like kind of to diffuse the situation, to equip you with the tools that you need to overcome what's going on in your life, or whatever. Like maybe there are times where something like I'm personally not a big advocate of just throwing medicine at the problem, but there are times where there's body chemistry or like brain chemistry is off. Right, and like that's where like you need, there's sometimes medication does help with those issues, but a lot of times it's just more of like having someone there that actually cares about you as a person. There's so many networks that you can reach out to, and we encourage you continually. If you're really struggling and like, especially if you're considering killing yourself, suicide, go find help. Like talk to somebody. It's because it's not just your life that's at stake, which it is, but the fallout from that, like from the people that do care about you, that you can't see that they care about you, it leaves a long lasting effect. And I can attest to this because I have unfortunately I have an uncle that killed himself. Well, now it's been a while now. It's been about 20 years, but the fallout from that is still just this dark black hole in my family. Like there's a certain time of year, no one talks about it. No one wants to, deal with the situation. It's just kind of one of those things that got swept under the rug, and it's like that's one of the taboo subjects of our family. We don't talk about it, and it's kind of, it leaves along that depression. Not only passed from that person, from my uncle, but it passed on to the rest of the family. Like for certain things, certain times of the year. So I implore you, go get help. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but people do care. You do have loved ones that do care about you. It's not. There is hope.
There is help that's out there.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I know that, for some people who suffer from serious depression and who are, consider contemplating suicide, one of the things that they don't want to do is call some kind of helpline, because the first thing at the helpline, you have to know who you're calling, because there are some helplines out there where you call them, the first thing they do is they freaking call the cops. So they think you're going to call, either you're going to commit suicide, they call the cops. Because all they care about is protecting themselves,
Right.
Absolutely.
from
Legal
getting
action.
sued or whatever, and this person, you want to talk to somebody. Next thing you know, cops are breaking down your door and hauling you off to a psych
Loony
ward,
bin,
to
yeah.
a hospital. That's bullshit,
Exactly.
So you should be able to feel comfortable and confident enough. Now there are groups out there, that won't do that. That will help you. There's even where you can do like anonymous texting. I think it's 714-714. I believe that's the text.
Okay.
I'll have to verify, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's if you feel like you need to, you can do that. Or if there is, some kind of group or something, which again goes back to, celebrities who have committed suicide. Obviously, last year there were a couple that made a big impact. Chris Cornell being one, but the biggest one that was a trigger for me was Chester Bennington from Linkin Park.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was a big deal, and not really realizing of how big of a deal that was. Granted, yes, I'm a fan of Linkin Park, dig the music and stuff, but never really thought of it as like something that would be
affecting you, but
so significant. I never thought about it in that way. But when that happened, it was a trigger, and people have triggers. And last year was 2017. I think for a lot of people actually was, was a tough year.
the best.
It was a pretty freaking tough year.
Not the greatest
Right?
year for
So,
some people.
so there was a lot of personal things that I was going through, and it just, again, it was a trigger. It was a trigger for me that was like, okay, it got me to think about all this shit that's going on, personally in my life, and I'm like, God, and when when they announced that they were going to do a benefit or a celebration of life concert at the Hollywood Bowl on October 27th, I was like, I had to go. Like I had to go there because, and then I think maybe a lot. And I want to talk about this only because I think maybe there's a lot of people who you hold a lot of stuff in, and that's just the kind of person I am. Like I'll hold it in, and I need to release. I need to just get it out. You have to get it out because if it builds in, it will just eat you alive. And I kind of felt like, well, maybe this will help me release. Well, it's like it didn't release in a way that I thought it would. But what's really interesting is, again, with social media, this is where one of the benefits are, is there's a closed group for people that was created for people who were actually going to the concert. If you had a ticket and you were going to that show, you can join this group.
Okay.
And so I thought, sure, why not? So I joined that group, and the concert happens and everything. So it's like, okay, what's going to happen to this group? It's still going on, and it's still just as strong today as it was, before the concert, back in October. So, but what's interesting is again the support. It's a support group. It's a place for people to feel comfortable to talk about things that they don't feel comfortable talking about to their husband or their wife or the people that are the closest to them in their family, because they don't get it. They don't understand. It's for a lot of these people, especially for the Linkin Park fans, what makes this very significant for fans of that band is that band was their voice.
Right.
They grew up with that band being able to say things that they wish that they could. It was an expression. It was like this band
was the voice of a generation.
saved me from me killing myself when I was in high school or grammar school or college or whatever it is. So there was, and if you listen to the lyrics, and Chester Bennington wore his heart on his sleeve, like what he sang about and talked about, and what they wrote.
He dealt with. Yeah.
He wrote to it. They dealt with it, and unfortunately, because of his depression and mental demons, it got the best of him. So, that sucked, and it's hard for a lot of people, and I see it in this group. That it's hard for a lot of people, but the benefit of that horrible thing, that tragedy, is it brought people together. It got people to open up and to talk about things. If someone's going through a bad day, if someone is and then this is what's really screwed about depression, is you can be fine. We're talking fine, and then it'll just hit you out of left field, and you are like in the shit. And it's like almost like it's like out of your control. It hits you when you least expect it, and that's what a lot of people, I think, who don't deal with it or don't understand it, don't understand, or they don't get it. It's something that it happens. What's great about this group is, if you're having a really crappy day, or if you get this thing hits you, people will go on and they'll post and say whatever, and nobody's going to judge them. No one's going to tell them, well, you shouldn't feel that way. No one's going to criticize them. You get love, you get support, you get people who understand it because they're going through the same thing. It's just like, so any kind of support group. And that's what has come out of that particular event.
Yeah.
And it's been great, And there's times where like I'll be fine, and then it's like it'll hit you. It's like, holy shit, And then you think, crap, I don't want to say anything, because your first reaction is, I don't want to dump on a bunch of people. I don't want to tell them about, God, I'm having a shitty day. Or I'm really depressed today because of such and such or whatever. But then, on the other hand, is you need to release. You need to get it out. and you need to have a safe place to be able to do it.
Right.
So that group, for example, and there's a couple of them, there's a lot of groups, but there's a couple of them that I'm involved with that allow you to do that. And there are people in here, in that group, some I've met at the concert, or people, and there's people I've never even met. But I can talk to them, and I can express my depression.
Right.
Or if someone's going through something, it's funny. Maybe it's a God-given intervention or something. But when somebody posts something 9 out of 10 times, I just know what to say. I know how to respond to that. And I'm not a professional. None of us are. If you need professional help, get professional help. Don't look at this as something.
Yeah, don't look to us.
But what we can offer is at least support, and that's what's great about that in regards to something that social media was able to allow this to be something.
Yeah, we're like 10, 15 years ago, this never
Right.
would have happened.
Right.
I remember as bad as that was. I mean, it's like it's like a nuclear bomb goes off that someone like him, it's like that you think he's okay, and then it's like it just kind of goes off and he's gone. And the people that look to him as kind of like a voice for themselves, it's like you're kind of stumbling around in this nuclear fallout, and because of social media, you were able to find each other, and you're kind of like, well, there's people here that think like I do, and you can kind of share that. And the one thing 10, 15, God, it's almost 20 years ago now. Geez, for me was my big hero was Dale Earnhardt Sr. When he died in the Daytona 500.
17 years ago now. Yeah.
It's one of those things that I didn't even know. My life was just completely and it's like I've never met the man. It's one and I know people think I'm crazy. It's like I never met the man, and it's like why should I even care? But the thing is, I looked up to him as a person a guy who came from nothing, was so generous and kind to people that. And he wouldn't tell people about the good things that he did, and that was the type of person that I aspired to be. And also he's just this bigger than life character, and it's like how can Superman die?
Right.
Yeah, and it's but there was no support network for that when I was going through it. And I mean there's the NASCAR community is a very welcoming community as well, where it's it's when times are tough we all come together and we support one another, but there wasn't that same kind of connection that today, if that had happened today, there would be a lot more that type of network where we could have that, but 17 years ago that wasn't the case.
Right. And it's not all doom and gloom. These in
Right,
this
right.
group either. But people will post if I find something that's funny or whatever, I'll post about it, and I'll post, it's positive. There's positive there too, and people are supportive of that. If you're going through a bad time, people are supportive of that. That's what's great. That's
You can share the highlights and the low points.
There's this family. You have this the LP family, the
Right.
Lincoln Park family, of fans, but people who get it.
Right.
Who get it and who
Because they're
feel,
there or they've been there.
Right. You feel comfortable to be able to express yourself and not be criticized, chastised, looked down upon, or whatever it is. And people even say, the people who are closest to me just don't get it. They don't get it, or they go, I don't understand. They're it's a freaking singer, or an actor, or a race car driver.
Right.
Who cares? It's but you're missing the point. It's not just because of that. It's
What they stood for.
It's what they stood for. So it's what you were saying. It's what they stood for, what their voice meant to you. Growing up or whatever it is. So it's those kind of things are really important. And I treasure these people. I love these people. I don't know them.
Right.
I may not have met them personally, but I love these people.
Yeah.
Because they are they're genuine, and that's the beauty of it. So there you go. I don't know how that ties into Resurrection of Black, but hey.
Well,
you know,
hey,
it's
well,
okay.
we were talking about justifiable condemnation. This is how the podcast works.
Hey, man,
sometimes.
that's okay. This is all
started.
important stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
we started at one point. We
We end up on a very important one, yeah.
yeah.
And I don't
Start
regret
one
a
place,
second
we
of
end,
it.
we end in another.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end. Why don't you push some Lanes Laire products? I know you got some stuff on the Crimson Lane Experiences website for.
Plug
that's
yourself.
no, that's
Plug yourself.
yeah, no. Lanes Laire. You can go to laneslaire.com. You can go to bandcamp.com /Lanes Laire. You can go to iTunes or Amazon or wherever. You can listen to Lanes Laire on Spotify. I mean, you know, there's all sorts of places that you can pick up either the album. You can pick up a hard copy, which I will personally autograph to you if you like. You can download it as well. And then I didn't bring one of my cool baseball caps, but
see,
Merch.
I got merch and I didn't even bring
merch.
it. Yeah, I'm real good at this, right?
Yeah.
But I got these really cool Lanes Laire baseball caps with our logo on it and stuff. So.
and if you'd like to follow him on Twitter, you are at Lanes Laire.
Yep, at Lanes Laire, Instagram. Twitter, I don't spend really too much. Like, I'll tie in my Facebook posts and Instagram posts to Twitter, but I don't really tweet.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I'm more on Twitter than like the other stuff I kind of post
more
on
on
that.
like Instagram. I love Instagram because I can just like,
I mean, I'm
if I'm in the middle of doing
so-
something, and I can take a photo, I can post it, and like there it is, So there's things that
All you damn twits on
Yeah.
Twitter.
I will have
It's all
stuff
about
that's
the
on
brand.
Facebook and Instagram that will be similar, but then there will probably be more stuff on Instagram than on Facebook,
Right.
actually. So,
Okay.
but I do tie that all into the Twitter feed. Maybe one day I'll actually tweet something on its own.
Any concerts coming up for you?
No, right now the focus is working on the 11/11 album. I really am focusing on that album. I'll save the other album
Yeah.
for later, and we'll talk about that more as time gets closer to that release. But the plan right now is to have an October 12th, I think, release for
Okay.
11/11
Oh, for this
Awesome.
of this year.
Mhm.
So the goal is to have this the next album released then.
year.
We'll probably do something in LA, some kind of release party. But that's where the main focus is right now. I may actually, I may do some solo acoustic stuff here and there.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do have a YouTube channel.
Okay, then
Oh,
we can always plug that.
Yeah, we'll
You can just look up Lanes Laire.
Yeah.
And,
we'll put that in the description too, so people can check you out.
yeah, there's some videos in there, and I guess you would call it New Year's resolution. Maybe is to be more diligent about doing more blogs for my website, which is laneslaire.com, and also more videos and that kind of thing too. I want to definitely do a lot more video blogs and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we've been kind of hitting at it pretty hard here too for our channel. Like that was kind of like my kind of New Year's goal for the year is just kind of promote ourselves a little bit better, improve the channel in the little ways that I can do it. And Andy's been just working his ass off. Like
a dog. Like a dog.
Like
I've
the
been
dog
working-
you are.
Working like a dog.
yeah, we push Andy a little too hard sometimes. So
Hey, man.
Yeah.
the channel wouldn't exist without
I know,
Andy.
I know. Like you make the cripple do all the work.
I know, right?
Jerks.
All that cripple privilege.
And that's why you're watching, for all of that
Yes.
pleasant cripple.
Well, we thank you for. I know you're a busy guy. I'm really excited that you came on for our small, bare bones podcast.
Yes.
I'm glad we got to share some soju, some sake, some whiskey, and
I don't have a drinking problem, I swear.
yeah.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
next Circle of Jerks
Right.
podcast, hi, I'm Dan, and I may be an alcoholic. Tune in to find out.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
no,
have an alcohol problem. I have alcohol success.
exactly.
That's not a problem.
What was it from the Billie Jean King movie? It's like
Oh,
it's
right,
not-
who's a
it's not that
gambling
you're-
problem.
It's, yeah,
It's- yeah, you
it's
know,
not that
he's-
you're
Bad
you have a
gambler.
drinking
You're not-
problem. It's like you're just bad at drinking.
You're bad drinking, right? You know, he's a Gamblers Anonymous. You know, we're all not here because we're gamblers. You are all here because you're all terrible gamblers. I, however, am a great gambler, and I'm getting out of here.
But no, in all seriousness, thank you for coming. I'm really glad that you were able to make it out.
Word.
I know we've been talking about it for a while, and yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Lanes Laire, go ahead and pick up a copy of Resurrection of Black. Great album, great story, great message, and yeah, if you like good music, here you go. This is good modern music, so go ahead and check him out. Check him up on all his social media sites,
websites,
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, what have
all
you.
that good stuff.
All that good
Yeah.
stuff.
All that good stuff.
And thank you, Dan, for coming.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yes.
glad to have you back.
Pleasure,
that you're
pleasure.
not dead.
I know, right?
He's
Not dead.
Andy, we see each other every week, so
I'm kind of sick of it.
yeah. Just to plug the channel a little bit. This this show has been spotty at best, but we got some new episodes coming out before this one. You'll have already seen our previous episode, so I hope you enjoyed that. On Tuesdays at 8, mostly at 8,
Mostly.
we have our live stream, Nocturnal Transmissions, so come and join the conversation. Sometimes we talk about Star Wars, sometimes we talk about random fun stuff, sometimes we get a little serious like we did today. So come join the conversation, and you can tune in, you can change the conversation. If you don't like what we're talking about, ask us a question, we'll change it up. And on Thursdays, every Thursday is my show, Up by Up Down. We do, right now, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we've either are continuing or have just finished our playthrough of Super Mario 3 on the Famicom. And we got some other
Either
great,
or.
we got some great new games coming up for the rest of the year. So come, like, comment, subscribe, do it all, and we'll see you guys next time.
Deuces.
All right.
Yeah.